That's Iranian money. It was awarded to them.
But they wanted it fast.
Well, they've wanted it for more than 30 years.
So there was no quid pro quo
this is money
I
that's been frozen for
but
since
it was
1979.
time, it seemed, with the release of this. You say no quid pro quo.
I understand. When people talk about the optics of this, but no, this wasn't a quid pro quo. This wasn't a ransom payment. This was money that they were going to get anyway.
All right. He was talking at the time about the initial $400 million cash payment and then $1.3 billion more that landed that was seen as sort of like ransom for these people who were held hostage. We've had several hostages here over the last few months who seem to confirm that appeared to be the case. But now we're getting word of something else that seems to join this together a little bit more cohesively, if not worrisomely. Iranian banks and having a lot of sanctions lifted there at the exact same time. James Rosen all over that. James, what do we know here? What's going on?
Neil, good afternoon. Now, let's go back to when the Obama administration first announced the Iran nuclear deal 2 summers ago. Senior administration officials back then were in the habit of providing to lawmakers assurances like these.
The sanctions on their arms trade, the sanctions on their acquisition of ballistic missile technology remain in place for many years to come under the UN.
Now, however, the Wall Street Journal reports that in January of this year, the same day the U.S. paid that $400 million in hard foreign currency to the regime and 5 U.S. hostages were set free from Iran, a top State Department official quietly signed a deal agreeing to allow the UN to lift sanctions on Bank SEPA in Iran, even though the U.S. Treasury Department a decade earlier had labeled SEPA the financial linchpin of the regime's ballistic missile program. The State Department spokesman said today the bank no longer plays any role in that program.
But what's important also to remember in any of this, whenever we're talking about delisting someone from sanctions, that we always maintain the ability to reimpose U.S. sanctions on Bank SEPA or any other entity in Iran if we then consider their behavior or merits.
The chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee told Fox News today how he thinks U.S. officials came to be involved in so many ancillary deals to the main nuclear agreement.
The Iranians kept changing the deal, and they at that point had so bought into it that they continued to get rolled to the extent that they paid $1.7 billion in cash ransom, to the extent now that they've lifted sanctions on the 2 banks that are financing the ballistic missile programs.
And Iran's ballistic missile program has expanded aggressively just since these sanctions. The UN sanctions were lifted in January, with 4 confirmed tests since then, including 1 test that failed of a North Korean model. Neil.
Incredible. James, great reporting as always, my friend. James Rosen. All right, we have a lot more.